In 1952, archaeologists opened a tomb in Mexico, inside a pyramid in Palenque, in the jungle of Chiapas, and found something that changed everything: a sarcophagus lid, with a carved image that, depending on how you look at it, shows two completely different things. The official explanation: a Mayan ruler in ritual position, descending to the underworld. The alternative explanation: a man seated in a cockpit, controlling a propulsion machine, with pedals, with control panels, with flames coming out the back. The image became famous as Pakal's astronaut, and for 70 years nobody has been able to completely close the debate. But the sarcophagus lid is just the beginning. Pakal ruled Palenque for 68 years, more than any Egyptian pharaoh. His bones say he died old. His skull says something else. Today we're going into Palenque and seeing what's really hidden in the jungle of Chiapas. Pakal, whose full name was Kinich Janab Pakal, ruled the Mayan city-state of Palenque from 615 to 683 AD, 68 years on the throne. He took power at 12, died, supposedly, at 80. What he built? Palenque, under Pakal, became one of the most splendid cities in the Mayan world. The palace, a complex of buildings with the only known astronomical observation tower in Mayan architecture. The Temple of the Inscriptions, the pyramid that would house his tomb. 23 meters tall, built specifically to hold his sarcophagus. The inscriptions of Palenque are considered among the most refined and complex in all Mayan civilization. The problem with his age: when archaeologists analyzed his remains, the bones indicated a person who died between 40 and 50 years old. Historical records say he was born in 603 and died in 683, meaning at 80 years old. The discrepancy is 30 years. Not a reasonable margin of error. Either the historical records are wrong about when he was born, or the historical records are wrong about when he died. Or, and this is the possibility nobody mentions in textbooks, Pakal had physical characteristics that made age estimation from bones unreliable. A specific condition. An unusual genetics. That affected how his bones aged. The skull, Pakal's skull, showed cranial deformation, pronounced well beyond what normal Mayan elongation practice produced. The Mayan elongation was done by binding boards to babies' heads. It created deformation, yes, but with physical limits. Pakal's skull exceeded those limits, similar to the Paracas skulls in Peru, like Akhenaten's skull in Egypt, like the skulls found in Malta that mysteriously disappeared from museum records. A specific physical characteristic in ruling elites. Around the world, as if there were a lineage with identifiable physical markers that governed civilizations in different parts of the planet. Pakal's sarcophagus lid is 3.8 meters long and weighs 5 tons, carved with an extraordinary level of detail. And it's the most controversial image in the archaeology of the Americas. The official interpretation: Pakal is in a falling position, descending toward the jaws of the earth monster, which represents the entrance to the Mayan underworld. Around him, Mayan cosmological symbols: the cosmic tree, the Quetzal bird at the top, symbols of death and rebirth. It's a funerary scene, a representation of the soul's journey after death. It makes sense within the context of Mayan religion. The alternative interpretation: Erich von Däniken, in his 1968 book, Chariots of the Gods, proposed a different reading. Pakal is seated in a reclined position, like a pilot. His hands are in a control position, as if operating a machine. Under his feet, pedals. In front of him, panels with symbols that seem like indicators. Behind him, and what appears to be an engine with flames coming out. And above, an opening that resembles the nose of a spacecraft. Von Däniken argued, this is the depiction of a man in a flying machine. The debate: most archaeologists reject von Däniken's interpretation. The symbols are clearly Mayan. The context is funerary. Reading rocket imposes a modern view onto ancient art. But there's a detail archaeologists rarely mention. The sarcophagus lid was carved from a perspective that only makes complete sense viewed from above. From the side, it looks like a religious scene. From above, with the correct orientation, The central figure is in a very specific position, a position that no Mayan artist would have reason to imagine, unless they had seen something real. But there's something in Pakal's tomb that's even more disturbing than the lid. When Alberto Ruiz-Luillier discovered Pakal's tomb in 1952, it took 4 years of excavation to reach it. The stairway descended 25 meters inside the pyramid. It was sealed with tons of stone and clay. But there was something else in the tomb that tourist guides rarely mention: the psychoduct tube. Along the entire stairway and from the sarcophagus to the top of the pyramid, there was a sinuous tube, made of stone, hollow inside, running the entire length of the pyramid. The official explanation: a psychoduct, a spiritual channel that allowed Pakal's soul to communicate with priests above. It's a reasonable explanation within Mayan cosmology. But engineers who analyzed the tube noticed something different. The shape, angle and dimensions of the tube are consistent with a ventilation system, to keep air fresh in a sealed chamber, to preserve something, or to maintain someone. What was inside the sarcophagus? Pakal's body was covered in jade, hundreds of jade pieces covering the face, body and hands, a jade mask on the face, jade teeth in the mouth, jade rings on the fingers. Jade for the Maya wasn't just jewelry, it was the material that protected the vital essence, what they called divine breath, like gold for the Anunnaki, who according to Sumerian texts needed gold to protect Nibiru's atmosphere, the precious material as a shield. As protection of something essential, in cultures without contact, with the same logic. And there's one last thing about Pakal that official history has never been able to fully explain. Pakal's skull is not alone. Throughout the world, in civilizations with no known contact between them, ruling elites had skulls with unusual characteristics. In Peru, the Paracas skulls, discovered in 1928 on Peru's southern coast, over 300 skulls with extreme elongation, cranial volume up to 60% greater than the average human, 2 parietal plates instead of 3, an anatomical characteristic that is not standard human. When DNA samples were sent for analysis, the results showed genetic material that doesn't correspond to any known human population. The report was published and then ignored by the scientific community. In Egypt, Akhenaten and his family, the pharaoh who tried to destroy Egyptian religion, are depicted with distinctly elongated skulls. His daughters too, the entire royal family of Amarna. The official explanation: deliberate artistic style, aesthetic exaggeration. But mummies recovered from Amarna show real cranial structure, not just artistic representation. In Malta, in the Hal Saflieni hypogeum, a 5,000-year-old underground structure, elongated skulls were found that mysteriously disappeared from museum records. Researchers who tried to trace them got no answer. The pattern: ruling elites, different skulls, all over the world, in every era. As if there were a lineage, with specific physical characteristics, that governed civilizations across the planet. A lineage that the Sumerians called bearers of the Nam-Lugal, that the Egyptians called blood of Horus, that the Maya represented in their most sacred rulers. Pakal had that skull and ruled for 68 years with a wisdom and constructive capacity that his successors never fully replicated. What was Pakal building in Palenque? Why does his tomb have a tube running the entire pyramid? And what does the sarcophagus lid really show? The questions remain. Pakal didn't come to power by accident. His ascent to the throne was controversial. He took power through his mother, Sak Kuk, breaking the Mayan tradition of patrilineal succession. Palenque's records made an extraordinary effort to legitimize his reign. They traced his genealogy not just through human generations, but all the way to the Mayan gods themselves, exactly as Egyptian pharaohs claimed descent from Horus, exactly as Sumerian kings claimed Anunnaki lineage, exactly as the Merovingians claimed supernatural origin. The same pattern, all over the world. In every era, the legitimate ruler doesn't govern by conquest or election. He rules because he carries different blood, because he descends from something that is not completely human. Palenque was abandoned in 799 AD, just 1 century after Pakal was buried. as if without the guardian of the pact, the reason to maintain the city had disappeared. In the next video, we go to Teotihuacan, the city that nobody built. That existed before the Aztecs, before the Toltecs, before any civilization we know in the region, and whose name means the place where men became gods. Subscribe so you don't miss it. See you.